Hey, what's going on guys? DeJesus here. Today we're diving into everything you need to know before you start customizing shoes. If you've ever felt too overwhelmed by all the info out there to even get started, believe me, you're not alone. You watch a few tutorials, read some starter guides, and yet somehow still walk away with more questions than answers. So in this video, I'll be answering some of the most common questions that I get from beginners. We'll be covering things like tools, prep, paints, and finishers, along with giving you some business game for when you're ready to level up. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start easy with prep work, materials, and just getting things started. Alright, first up we have, how do I know when I'm done sanding? So this is actually a tricky one to answer because it totally depends on the shoe and the quality of the leather that you're working on. And there's just so little quality control nowadays that sometimes even a pair can prep differently. And what I mean by that is the left shoe can look totally different than the right shoe. So it's not really a set look or feeling that you're going for every time. The only thing that I know we can control is the amount of time that you do it. So I like to spend at least about 5 minutes with each grit of sandpaper on the pair of shoes. So anywhere from 2.5 to 3 minutes with each shoe is usually enough to give it a few passes, get all the way around, make sure I'm hitting all of the panels. And that is sort of the best indicator that you can use. Just knowing that you took the time to give it a few passes with each grit, because sometimes they can look totally different just from shoe to shoe or pair to pair. So there's not one definitive look or feel that you can go for every single time. Do I need to prep parts of the shoe I'm not painting? You do not, quite frankly. Save yourself the time, save yourself the energy, and there's no reason to go ahead and prep it if you don't plan to add any paint to it. Another little follow-up to this might be, well, do I need to at least remove the factory finish so that I can then apply my own finisher to the entire shoe? And you would only need to do that if you're going to dramatically change the entire sheen of everything. So if the shoe just has a factory coating and you want to make it super high gloss or super dull and super matte, then you may want to at least acetone it so that you can get that factory finish off, and then you can apply whatever type of sheen you want on top of the entire thing. I painted my shoes, but they're too glossy. Can I repaint them with duller, or do I need to remove the old paint first? Thankfully nowadays, the finishers have gotten so much better than they were in past years. Thanks to things like Angela's 4-coat or Liquid Kicks top coat, you can use either of those once you're completely done with all of the artwork. So it doesn't matter if your paint has given the shoes a little bit of a glossy look, more than you would actually desire. Once you're completely done with everything, all you need to do is apply a couple coats of whatever finisher you want, whether it's the matte 4-coat or the matte top coat from Liquid Kicks. Apply 2 coats of that directly on top, and you're gonna give your shoes a really, really clean matte look. What should I look for when choosing my first pair of sneakers to customize? So there's a few things that come to mind for me when you're just starting out and picking the right canvas. You really want to limit how many materials are on the shoe, because this way you can avoid working with too many different additives and weird textures when you're just starting out. So if you can find an all leather shoe or an all canvas shoe, that's a great place to start. Something else you also definitely want is an all white canvas. And then this way you can use any color you want that you have at your disposal. Whereas if you're starting with maybe an all black shoe or some other neutral color type canvas, you might be a little bit more limited, or it might be a more rigorous or just quite frankly difficult process to change it to any other color that you might desire. And then when you're thinking about your design, try to see what other artists have done in the past that might also be up the same alley of what you're going for ultimately. And you can also look at what other brands have done in the past with whatever canvas you've selected. Now let's move into painting, talk about some of the common challenges and fixes. What's the best way to change the color of fabric on a shoe? Paint or dye? Dye is always going to be the more permanent option. However, there are definitely some drawbacks. First off, you're going to be working with a much more limited color palette just in terms of what colors are available for dyes, and dye is so much messier to work with, and it is a lot harder to use in general, in my opinion. So when working with fabrics, I actually think that paint is the much better option, and there's a few different products that you can pick from. First off, you can take any Angela's paint and then mix it with a little bit of their Too Soft, and now you have a paint that can work directly on the fabric, or you can use something like Jacquard's Dynaflow, and this is excellent if you're ever painting something like a sock liner and you really want to retain some of that factory softness. How would you airbrush fabrics? Do I need additives like too soft and too thin? And should I heat set it? So this is easily one of the most asked questions that I've ever had since being on YouTube. Do you need to mix too soft, too thin together when you're doing sock liners and all of that? Too soft is also going to do the job of thinning out your paint if you are trying to airbrush a fabric. So if you're ever airbrushing a sock liner, you take a little bit of Angelus paint, you mix in some too soft, it's usually going to be a 1-to-1 ratio, and then that mixture is what you're going to use in your airbrush. You do not need any additional too thin from there, and once you're done, that's when you go ahead and heat set it. And please proceed with caution anytime you're heat setting, because you do not want to burn yourself and you do not want to burn any holes into your shoes. I have definitely been there and done that, unfortunately. What's the best way to fix a painting mistake? It really depends what the mistake is. Did you just get a little bit of paint on an unwanted surface? In that case, all you need to do is quickly grab a Q-tip and try to rub it right off before it dries. Or did you actually get a little bit of paint and it totally dried up on an area that you now need to cover up? In that situation, there's a few different things you can do. First off, you can dip a Q-tip in some acetone and try to rub it right off and take one step back in your project to then be able to take a couple steps forward by just covering it up and repainting whatever the color may need to be. Or as long as it's not a much darker color than what it should be, you might be able to get by just painting right over it. The first thing that I would try though is just grabbing a Q-tip, quickly wetting it with your mouth, and then just seeing if you could rub that unwanted paint right off, and you may not need to do any touch-ups if you're lucky. How can I speed up drying time without ruining my paint job? So I would bet that everybody right now is shouting at the screen that you can just use a heat gun to speed up your dry time. And that is absolutely true. However, if durability is your main concern for these shoes, you do want to make sure that you are giving ample dry time between layers. And I'm talking anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes in between coats of paint. If you absolutely have to speed up the dry time, I actually recommend using a blow dryer over a heat gun, and the way that you can always remember this is pretend you're getting out of the pool on a summer day. Are you going to dry a lot quicker if it's just hot and you're directly in the sun, or if it's a little bit more of a windy day and the wind is what dries you? That is going to be a much quicker way to dry, and the same thought process can be applied here, that the heat isn't actually going to help the paint dry quicker, but rather that the cold wind, that is actually going to make your paint dry a little bit faster. Now let's talk about airbrushing and tools, some techniques, and your setup. How many layers of paint do I need on average? Should the paint look wet when airbrushing? Just generally speaking, it's hard to narrow it down to one specific number, but if I had to give a ballpark number for what you should be able to do with most colors, starting from a white surface, you should be able to get any color down packed in about 5 or 6 coats. 6 is at the very top end. If I have to do more than that, that's when I know I might be starting to add too much paint. And anything less than 4, that's where even if it's an easy color to paint like black, maybe I should still do a little bit more so that I know that paint's really on there. And then in regards to your airbrushing looking wet, that is a dead giveaway that you're starting to apply too much paint. If you ever have any of that puddling and it's just starting to look wet and glossy, that's how you know you're starting to pull back too far on your trigger and just applying too much paint. So it's always going to be much better to do thinner coats. What are the benefits of using an airbrush versus a regular brush when changing the entire color of a shoe? Quite frankly, anybody who gets comfortable with an airbrush is always going to tell you that it's so much easier than painting something by hand. Not only is it going to be the faster method, but it is always going to give you a cleaner look when done well, because you're never going to run into any of those brush strokes. And just because of the nature of how the paint is applied with an airbrush, it is almost always going to give it just a cleaner, even type look, in my opinion. However, there are definitely some benefits with using a brush, because you're going to be able to hit certain areas that you just can't quite get with an airbrush, no matter how hard you try. And if you think about it, when you're working on a brand new shoe that hasn't been worn yet, the shoe hasn't stretched or expanded at all. So with the paintbrush, you could really make sure that you're able to take that brush and get paint up and underneath those panels and up and underneath those edges. So once that shoe is actually worn and it starts to expand and stretch a little bit, you're not gonna have any of that factory white poking through that can sometimes happen if all you do is just airbrush the shoe and never go in with a paintbrush. So no matter what, even if I do plan to airbrush an entire shoe, I always make sure to do at least one coat of paint completely by hand with a brush. Do I need a ventilated workspace for airbrushing? Yes, you absolutely do, and you would be surprised how much of those airbrush particles are actually getting all over your surrounding area. Even if you think you're spraying directly at your object, there are still particles going everywhere, and over time, you definitely don't want to be breathing these in either. So all you need to do is pick up something like a tabletop airbrush booth, and this is going to save you in the long run. It's going to protect your area, protect you from breathing it in, and just keep everything a lot cleaner for you. Can I make smooth gradients without an airbrush? You absolutely can paint a really good blend totally by hand. There is one little product that I highly recommend picking up. It is called a slow dry fluid retarder. It's made by the brand Liquitex. There's definitely some other options out there that are very similar, but this is going to increase the blending time that you have between paints. So once you're trying to blend them together, they're just not going to dry as quickly, and then you have a little bit more time to make that blend as smooth as possible. However, if you are planning to do a gradient or blend by hand, I really would only recommend doing this if you're working with colors that are similar in tone or value, because those are obviously going to be easier to blend. If you're trying to blend something together like black to pink, you're probably just going to have a much harder time. Now let's talk about finishing your custom shoes and turning it into a business. What's the best seal or finisher, and how long should I wait before applying it after painting? I talked about these two earlier, but Angelus 4-Coat and Liquid Kicks Top Coat are two of my favorite finishers out on the market right now. Either of these will totally get the job done for you. And when determining how long do you need to wait after you've applied your last drop of paint, you want to make sure that it's at least been a couple of hours so that all of the paint has completely dried. What are the best settings for cutting vinyl, and how do I stop it from cutting through the backing? Thankfully nowadays, really regardless of whatever vinyl cutting software you use, whether that's the Cricut one or Silhouette Studio, they all have a bunch of presets for different materials. So in my case, since I'm a Silhouette Studio user, I can go into the Send tab and then select vinyl as my material. I like to select the glossy one, and it's going to give me a bunch of preset settings that I can use. So I have my blade depth turned to 1, I can keep my force at 10, and my speed at 5. And this is going to work perfect for a really wide range of designs that I might be cutting. I might need to fine tune some of the settings if I'm ever trying to cut something a little bit more intricate and detailed. I might want to slow down that speed a little bit, or if it's starting to peel some of that vinyl up, I might actually want to turn that force down a little bit. If you've been using your vinyl cutter for a while and you think that your blade might be starting to dull, then you may want to start to turn the force up a little bit. But these preset settings are going to be perfect for most general stuff, and they're just going to cut through the vinyl, not through the backing. Where do I get shoes for customs? Should customers provide them, or should I buy in bulk? So in terms of where you get your shoes, it really depends on how you want to run your business. A lot of people may have the type of custom shoe business where if a client wants something done, the client themselves may need to provide the shoes, because sometimes artists or customizers don't want to go out and source the shoes. But just generally speaking, if you're using a lot of common base shoes, Air Forces, Vans, Jordan 1s, you can pick these up at a lot of the shoe stores in the mall. Or if you're trying to work with something more specific, maybe you're trying to do a specific type of Jordan for a customer, then you may want to search secondhand sites like eBay, StockX, GOAT. Sometimes you can also find shoes on there for under retail if you get lucky. If you're just trying to find some practice shoes, you can absolutely search at thrift stores. You can search through used ones on eBay. You can ask any of your friends or family if they have any shoes that they can donate to you to use. But just in terms of buying in bulk, unfortunately, from my experience at least, there's no great answer. There's usually not going to be a place that any average person can go and get a ton of authentic pairs at wholesale pricing. What are the most common beginner mistakes, and how do I avoid them? We actually did a great video on this topic. If you're interested in checking it out, go ahead and click right here. All right, that's it for me, guys. Now everybody get out there and just create.